big boy pants in this
I
episode.
didn't know that was coming. I actually cried. I didn't know it was coming. Like I knew he wasn't going to go off to Starfleet in third season, but I was like, oh, he got his outfit and he got promoted. And I was waiting to come over here and record with you guys. Literally, like walked over here as soon as I finished the episode, and I'm like, Wesley got his uniform.
Yes, Wesley got his big boy pants, and it's very, very exciting. I'm pretty sure I wailed when it happened in real life.
Yeah.
And Gene Roddenberry made sure that this was like a full actual thing, because not only was Wesley made a full ensign, but Gene was in the army during World War II. He was a pilot, and he gave his second lieutenant bars, which would be the army equivalent to an ensign. He gave them to Will Wheaton.
My heart.
As part of the ceremony of him being promoted to ensign. And not only did he made like a full ceremony of it, he invited Colin Powell, who was at that time the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, to the set for this ceremony.
Yeah,
so like it was
cool.
a big proper thing.
You've seen the best.
You've seen the worst.
Now here's the rest of both worlds.
I'm GayFesh, daughter of the Fifth House.
And I'm Ari, holder of the sacred chalice of Reeks.
And I am Manda, heir to the holy rings of Beta Z.
And today we'll be discussing the Star Trek The Next Generation episode Ménage à Troi. Manda, welcome back. You are our first returning guest.
I am so excited to be here. This is the episode that got me hooked on Star Trek as a property. And
Wow.
I am so ready to talk to y'all about this.
Yeah, so this is the first time we've ever had a returning guest. You are our resident Imzadi expert.
Yep.
So of course we brought you on for this one. Before we started recording, you were mentioning how like you're actually behind on Star Trek.
I am. All of the stuff that is airing now, like we are in this sort of new golden age of Star Trek. It hasn't been this great since the like end of TNG, heyday of DS9, early days of Voyager overlap.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that, except that I have an 8-year-old and I have a spouse. And they also like Star Trek. Granted, their overlap with me, it's different. You know, Mac wants to watch Prodigy and my husband wants to watch Disco and wants to watch Picard. And they expect me to wait for them. But their hours are very different from mine.
Yeah, I could never do that. I mean, you know, I do YouTube reviews for stuff. So like, honestly, my favorite show right now is For All Mankind because it actually comes out like 6 p.m. the day before it's like officially released. Nice. So I can get my YouTube reviews out like by midnight versus all these other shows. I have to wait until like I figure out, okay, Star Trek is actually probably going to release around 11:30 p.m. So I like watch it as soon. I just am refreshing Paramount to see that it comes up.
Oh man, the first season of Picard, I flat out told my significant, I'm like, no, I'm not waiting for you. I'm waiting until midnight. I am refreshing starting at like 11:10 p.m. every single Wednesday, and I am watching it the moment it comes out. And then I binged the first season of Disco also without him. I'm not mad that I have to rewatch it, but I'm just like, I need this. I need this. And Picard in particular is just, they might as well be speaking directly to me. So I waiting ever for a Picard episode. Just like, no, I cannot. I love you, but not enough to miss Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. I always think it's fine to watch something without someone as long as you're willing to rewatch it. That's something that GayFesh is really good at. I can't always get out to see the Marvel movies the day they come out, but he will, and then he'll just go watch them again with me. So like, it's fine.
Well, I was just thinking too, how this whole podcast started because you were just watching TNG for the first time, and then you were like, oh, we should do a podcast.
Yeah.
And then you had to stop watching for like several months while we waited to get everything ready to start up the podcast.
I know. I remember I'd be like, I wish I could be watching Star Trek right now. Yeah. Because we decided to make this podcast right at the same time that we decided to, I got back to work too. So it was like I started a new job and then we did the podcast and it was like, well, I have to prioritize certain things.
Well, hopefully we will get to a point where you can just watch Star Trek without having to do it for, the podcast. But if you are feeling so generous, head on over to patreon.com/restofbothworlds. For any amount, you will get these episodes up to 5 days early, and you will also get a spot on our Discord where you can suggest these small talks that we have at the beginning of each episode. And for the $10 tier, we will read your name out at the end of each episode. Nobody's claimed that one yet, so you could be the first.
All right, so today we're going to talk about Ménage Troi. It is the 24th episode of the 3rd season. It first aired on the 28th of May, 1990. It was written by Fred Bronson and Susan Sackett and directed by Robert Legato.
Beta Z is apparently the planet.
Apparently.
I mean, it's one of them.
Well,
yes.
I'm saying they used the Huntington Library Gardens to fill in.
Oh, you mean
for
it's
Beta
the
Z.
same place?
It's one of the 2 places that they filmed the Edo planet from Justice.
Okay.
The other one. At first, I thought they had only used one spot, so I was like, "Oh, this is also like where they filmed Starfleet Academy," but that's Tillman Water Reclamation Plant.
Okay.
That's the one that's got the futuristic building, which we saw in Justice. But this is just the Huntington Library Gardens. But they use it a lot. They've used it for other things too, I think, in the future on TNG. But anyway, Beta Z's the planet.
I mean, when you were shooting in that era, once you had your insurance on file with a place, it's a headache to get insurance on file to shoot anywhere. So I think like once they had insurance on file there and they like knew what the permitting process was, it was probably like, hey, how many times can we reuse this location?
It makes sense because you've already got it taken care of. When I used to own the game store, we had a shooting of like one of those. Oh man, I can't remember what the names of them were, but they were like those geek movies that were really popular like 15 years ago that were about like D&D stuff. It took them like 4 or 5 days of coming out, measuring our store, taking pictures of the store, going back, coming back, taking more pictures, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it takes so much. I mean, sure, Manda knows this because you've worked in the industry, but like from a layperson's side, I was amazed at how much it took just to scope out our store to use for like 3 minutes of footage.
It's a lot. And so, yeah, if you've got a location manager that knows their way around the place, they know the staff who are there, and you've got all your paperwork already in order, like, yeah, can we shoot here every episode? Can we just bring... The Enterprise is only going to park at this one planet for the rest of the season.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So I was very excited we were at Beta Z, though. I was like, oh, hey, I don't think we've seen the planet yet, right? That was the first time?
Nope, that's the first time. Actually, I think this might be the only time we ever see Beta Z in Star Trek. I know it's mentioned, something pretty significant happens to it in Deep Space Nine, but I don't think we actually go there.
No, we see it. We see it on a holodeck.
Oh, well, that doesn't count.
But I don't think we go there again. I think you're right.
Interesting.
So it starts up, they're doing some conference thing that like the Ferengi were invited to.
Trade conference. Because it's a trade conference.
Okay, that's fine.
Because capitalism.
I gotta say, it feels like the makeup for the Ferengi really stepped up a notch this episode.
Yes.
Either that or just like the performances, because the last time we saw a Ferengi was in Captain's Holiday, and it's Max Grodenchik, who we all know can play a Ferengi, but he just looked weird and was doing like a squinty-eyed thing the whole time.
Oh, the squinty thing, yeah.
There's none of that here. They all look good. Also, one of the Ferengi is Neelix.
Yes.
Who's Neelix?
From Voyager, the rat dude.
Oh, from Voyager.
Yeah. He was the evil one who wanted to like scramble Loxana's brain.
Well, when you're talking about the makeup, that's the thing I noticed too, was that you could actually tell the difference between the Ferengi this time. I didn't have to be like, wonder which one's talking right now, because the makeup is overpowering their facial expressions. Like there was enough difference between them. I could be like, oh, that's the one that's just trying to marry Loxana, and that's the one that's trying to hurt her. You know, there was an actual difference.
The Daemon Tog has taken an interest in Loxana. He has this idea that if he has a Betazoid working with him, he can use her telepathic abilities to help him in trade negotiations. And also, he's just kind of got Betazoid fever.
Yeah.
And, of course, Loxana wants absolutely nothing to do with him, calls him a little troll, especially when he offers to buy her. And...
I love that line though. The like she said something like, "Let's get one thing straight, little man." I loved it.
Yeah, she's putting up none of that. But of course, Loxana's on board, so she has to pester Deanna about why she hasn't found a husband and had kids yet. She's getting old and she wants grandkids.
And then, I mean, tiny flash forward, and then she like proceeds to completely cockblock the situation.
Right?
I know. Why did she think she would be helpful?
Picard is the ultimate wingman. Picard's like, Deanna was smart enough to request shore leave. I'm going to have to kick you down there to get laid.
Right? Jean-Luc is trying his best. Bless his heart.
It's hard to be the dad of the ship.
For sure.
Honestly, I remember the first time I saw this episode, I was like surprised when Riker and Deanna kissed, because I'm like, well, I thought they weren't together anymore. But I guess it's, just kind of that off again, on again thing.
Well, but the timing of that kiss was really bad, because the timing was, oh, let's make out because we love each other and we're talking about our lovely memories. And then immediately Loxana walks up and is like, oh, you guys should get together. And they're like, no way. We would never get together. I'm like, you guys were just literally shoving your tongues in each other's mouths a few seconds ago.
Right? Like, Will's whole expression is like, I was working on it, ma'am. Excuse me.
I loved their outfits, though.
Oh my God. Marina Sirtis used to call that her galactic ballerina dress.
Oh, I called it her garden party outfit in my notes.
Yes, I just like it anytime that they get to wear what is not their uniforms. It's always some sort of delightful 80s, early 90s freak show of what the wardrobe department got high and created, and it's always so much fun to watch.
They really like having wraps for men.
Oh my God, I know.
Because I love Riker's shirt in this one. It's this bright blue wrap, and it actually looks a lot like the one that Picard wore in Captain's Holiday.
It is very la mode in the 24th century.
Yeah. So, and I just kind of like wraps in general. All of the wrap uniforms in Star Trek I've loved, like the movie era uniforms and Kirk's green wrap. All those are good.
Those are good. Agree.
Now I want to wrap. I'm hungry.
I liked his outfit a lot too. I thought it was really good. But the one thing I was going to say is that it was made out of silk or something, so he couldn't put his communicator on it.
He had it on,
and it was
wrist.
In his pocket or something. Well, he was holding it in his hand at one point, talking to it. Yeah.
He actually, the first time he tries it, he's like, it's just under his sleeve. That he's keeping it there. And I think I'm trying to remember if we've seen that before. I feel like yes. Riker in Angel 1, when he was wearing the slutty outfit to sleep with the president, because he can't pin it to his chest because his chest is exposed. So he had it on his hand or something.
I wish I could remember which Star Trek TNG book this was in, because I would go find it and buy another copy. But there is a scene in a book somewhere, and don't quote me on that because it might have been a fanfic, where someone had their communicator on where it was supposed to be when things got hot and heavy and accidentally activated it.
Oh.
So you want your communicator where someone else's body will not be laying on you, so that it does not accidentally tell the ship's computer exactly what you're doing right then, and or overhear you. I mean, I don't know how many of you have Echo devices in your house, but if you accidentally start talking to that, it might announce to the whole house what you're doing. Yeah. So that might have been his thing.
Just the other day, we had an episode where we were talking about the Echo devices, and as I was editing it, I had to make sure to edit it with my headphones on, because I've got an Echo in my room, and every single time Ari said Alexa, I'm just like, ah.
Yep. That is why I refer to it as Echo devices, because I have ones that answer to her name, and I have ones that answer to computer. But I don't have any that answer to Echo, so I can refer to them that way. But yeah, so you don't wear your communicator where it might get bumped in the act of bump and grind.
You don't want to put that out to the ship. Yeah.
I mean, our iPhones are able to recognize accidental presses, right? I feel like in the 24th century, they would be able to, like, I remember there's an episode where Riker just like sits on Worf's console to talk to somebody. And like, I remember seeing like an edit on YouTube where he sits on it. And then all of a sudden the Enterprise just starts firing all of its photons. But obviously that doesn't happen because it's like, oh, no, that's not a finger press. Somebody just put their ass on the thing. I'm not going to recognize those inputs.
I mean, I feel like Starfleet would have to have procedures in place specifically for Will Riker's ass. Like, because he leans or half sits on consoles kind of often. Like, it's sort of a thing. And so either his uniform pants are specifically shielded against like haptic feedback, or Starfleet just has procedures in place. If Will Riker is there, then just know his ass is going to try to fire your weapons, and you need to stop that by whichever means possible.
I mean, if I were the quartermaster on the Enterprise, I would definitely make sure Will Riker always has shielded pants.
I mean, for a multitude of reasons, let's be real.
For many reasons, yeah. I liked the Cantina music, and then it came into play later, too. I wrote down, oh, hey, Cantina music.
So I noticed that even though like I called them like wood chimes or something like that, but the way he's playing them, he's just like going down a line playing them, but they're all playing like different notes. And so my first thought was, well, obviously the guy didn't know what the music was going to be when he played it, and he's just pantomiming. But the other thought is, well, it could not be in a scale. It could just be in the order of what the music is supposed to play. It doesn't necessarily have to be, these chimes could be arranged specifically for that song. So
yeah, Star Trek did a really bad job with making things, quote, alien. Everything was like sort of a human in a costume, and this is very much like a xylophone in a costume, and it is recognizable as like they didn't put too much thought into how to make this instrument. They showed up in the props department and said, hey, we need somebody to be able to make sort of music on a quasi percussion device because we're gonna have to recreate it with warp static later. So what do you got? And they were like, well, how much time do I have? And they said, we roll on this scene in 30 hours. And so props did what they could do. And then the actor got there and said, the f*** is this I'm supposed to do? And they're like, just bang on the drum.
Take this wooden mallet, just go bang, bang, bang. And try to do it quietly because it will pick up on the boom.
Yes. Exactly.
So we talked about the what happens after Luxana turns down the Ferengis when they're in the garden is that they come and kidnap all four of them. Well, three of them, I guess, right?
Right, because Mr. Hom is off picking berries, and he's only gone for like 5 minutes, but she gave him a really big bucket, and he shows up to just an empty picnic with it's completely full of berries. That man is like an amazing... Picker. Yeah, like, how did he do that? It must have been, I don't know, maybe it was just like a really easy plant to pick. Maybe it's like a grapevine and he could just like slide them all down off boop, 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 right into the barrel. But yeah, no, they kidnap Luxana and Deanna and Riker, which rookie mistake. First off,
why did they bring Riker?
Why did they bring Riker? Well, first off, don't kidnap 2 Starfleet officers. That's just going to have Starfleet on your ass.
So I had a question about that. The Ferengi aren't in the Federation yet,
no.
Right? Okay, no. So they don't care about pissing off the Federation? Like, because they didn't really seem to care about kidnapping both of those people, but at the end they seem very concerned about pissing off Captain Picard.
Well, Captain Picard has a lot of photon torpedoes that he can use to blow up that space croissant.
Space croissant.
So I feel like the Ferengi decided to bring Riker because they figured Riker would sound the alarm. Like, they didn't know that Mr. Hom would be right back. It was like, leave no witnesses because Riker knows what he's doing. He knows who they are. He's seen their faces. If they only take the women, well, Will Riker is going to be on them like white on rice, and they don't want that. So we might
just kill him.
We might as well. I mean, yeah, shoot him, but please don't do that because we have many more seasons. Yeah,
they didn't have their dryer tubes available.
They had a little Ferengi hand phaser that they were pointing at him later when he breaks out of prison. But
I mean, finding the dead body of a high-ranking Starfleet officer also maybe gonna raise a few red flags there. So just like
vaporize them, they can't find anything,
right? What are you talking about? So I think that's why they took him.
But yeah, so the first mistake, kidnapping 2 Starfleet officers. Second mistake, having 2 telepaths in your captivity and holding them separately. They can communicate to each other the entire time. So, like, you know, while Loxana is pretending to put the moves on Daemon Tog to lull him into a false sense of security, Deanna can, like, talk to her while as she and Riker work to, like, break out of the cell and try and send a message to the Enterprise.
Yeah, see, the Ferengi are not the sharpest tools in the shed.
No.
Well, they typically, I mean, for starters, they're probably just not used to dealing with the realities of telepaths because, as Data points out in this episode, they are immune to telepathy because they have a 4-lobed brain. And so it probably, even though they're like, oh, well, we want this telepath because of what they can do for us, they didn't really think about, you know, telepathy can also be used to help telepaths with other telepaths, not just help us get money.
Right. Yeah, because they're probably not thinking about it from that perspective.
Now, the way that they break out of the cell is that Riker has been playing chess with one of the guys, and Riker complains, like, I can't see the board from all the way over there, and the guy gets, like, so frustrated that he eventually does, like, lower the force fields to bring him out, and then it just cuts away, and the next thing we know, he's, like, nursing his hands, like, man, that Ferengi's got an iron jaw.
So we skipped something really critical that I feel like I need to go back to and mention, and that is that when Daemon Tog first tries to leverage Deanna's life to get Luoxana to hang out with him, work with him, etc., he beams Luoxana and Deanna out of their clothes.
Oh, we did skip that part.
And
yes, he does.
The fact that we learned right there in 1989 that one could be beamed out of one's clothing gave rise to an entire subgenre of fanfic.
I was going to say the fan fiction writers were probably run with that one.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Now, to Tog's credit, it was not Tog that beams them naked. It was Neelix. His character.
Oh, was
Farrak.
It was.
Yeah, because
I thought it was Tog too.
No, Tog actually apologized. He's like, oh, Farrak, not used to dealing with non-Ferengis or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, like, they immediately grab some space blankets so they can, you know, cover up their naughty bits.
Turn them into an actual dress, because 3 minutes later, Luoxana's got an actual dress made out of the space blanket. And I'm like, does she have a sewing machine in there?
She's a crafty one, that Mrs. Troi.
She is never going to look ugly because she is Luoxana Troi.
Right?
I will say, though, it does strike me as a little odd. I mean, I guess it's just the context of it, but, like, Betazoid weddings are held in the nude, so they're obviously more open about nudity than humans are.
That's true.
But I imagine in this case, it's like, well, we're not about to be sex slaves, so they probably don't want to be beamed naked into, you know, the lair of the space troll.
Yeah, that is one of those moments where you can really dissect it, looking through the lens of consent. Like, Betazoids will consent to be naked most of the time, but it is all about agency. And in that moment, they were made naked without their buy-in. And excuse me, Betazoids don't have a lot of boundaries, but that is one of them. So, like, you undressed me without my enthusiastic ongoing consent. How dare you?
Of course, if we're going to talk about consent, Luoxana Troi doesn't really seem to care that much about other people's consent when she's reading their minds or imposing her desires onto Deanna. Like, obviously, that's not to say that she deserves to be beamed naked, but she's not blameless in this whole, you know, getting people's consent thing.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure.
The last time we saw her, she was literally sexually harassing the entire Enterprise.
Yeah, that's true.
That is true. Again, she does not have many boundaries, but it is clear that this is one of them.
But this is the first time I really, truly liked Luoxana.
Oh, same.
Like, I liked her in this episode. Like, I know she's Luoxana and she's annoying or whatever, but, like, she was willing to do the thing she needed to do to save Deanna and Riker.
Yeah.
You know, and she was willing to do the really creepy ear stroke thing for a very long time. I really wanted it to stop, to do what she needed to do to help Deanna and Riker.
It's implied they did more than just the ear stroke, because, like, she's like, all right, and, like, they do the awkward kiss and then, like, lie down on the bed, and that is exactly how you film somebody about to have sex on TV in the 90s.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
So, yeah, I think she might have done the nasty.
To me, it has always felt like it was sex acts to Tog. She knew it was sex acts to Tog, but maybe it wasn't entirely sex acts to her. Like whatever the Ferengi kink is, whatever the Ferengi appetite is, it would be like the equivalent of letting somebody rub their cheek on your toes if they're a foot person and you're just not. Like, I get that this is a sex act to you, and I don't love that I am the object of a sex act with you, but this is not as offensive to me as something that would be a sex act to me. And if it's going to get me where I'm going, I'm gonna grin and bear it. I'm gonna put a bag over your head and a flag in your hand and do it for the Federation. Like.
By the way, can we talk about how brilliant it is making Umox a sex act? Because it's something that you can get away with showing on TV. It's just their ears. You're stroking their ears. I mean, you can see that it's a sensual act, but it's not something that showing on TV would be seen as obscene. And so you could just do it, and DS9 like runs hog wild with that. You just see Ferengis getting hand jobs all the time.
Also, they were able to use that to springboard to, I don't know if you know this, the Bajoran nose crinkles are considered an erogenous zone. And they made that choice so that no one would touch them because the prosthetics were very fragile.
Right.
So
that makes sense.
The Ferengi prosthetics are like a hat, and they're like a lace front wig. They're glued on and they're really solid. So those were touchable. The Bajorans, as a culture that would not walk around touching an erogenous zone, they're like, hey, if we also make this an erogenous zone, that's a reason no one ever interacts with that part of their body, which is great because the latex is really fragile and the spirit gum is melting under the lights, and we want Ensign Rowe's face to stay on her. Wow. Y'all haven't gotten to that episode yet, but
no, Ensign Rowe doesn't show up till season 5, so we're a little bit more than a season away from her.
I'm just saying there are moments in Conundrum that like that close-up had to be flawless.
Yeah. So going back to Riker escaping from the cell, the chessboard that they're playing, it is a 3D chess, but it's not the same one we typically see.
Okay, good, because I thought it was weird looking.
Because the traditional tridimensional chess set has the 4 floating blocks of the 2x2 blocks. This one just had 3 platforms that were 4x4 each, and I was just it was weird to me because like they had the regular set on 10 forward, but then the Ferengi just have this cheap looking 4x4 3 stack one. Which I'm like, well, it's not going to play the same.
And there was even a line that made me go, what? Because it was like, you're 2 moves away from being mated.
Oh, well, that's a standard chess
term. Is it a chess term? I did not know that chess term. So I had not, checkmate. And I had not heard them say it before. Mate, check. It's a word. It's a term for mate or for checkmate.
Checkmate, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, all of the terms that they're using. I think the only thing that they added to like the moves was like they had like king's level or whatnot. So that each of the tiers has its own name. But I don't understand why the Ferengi had the cheap version. Why couldn't they just move that prop over from the 10 forward set to the Ferengi ship and use the same set?
Well, maybe they don't have access to it because they're not a part of the Federation, and only Federation people are allowed to pay the fancy chess. I don't know.
I mean, the board itself, it was supposed to be kind of a Ferengi version of the chess set. They had different pieces and everything like that. I don't understand why it didn't have the floating parts because it just ended up looking cheap.
I think that was the point. I think Damon Togg is not like so much the best at this, and I think the point was to make his ship look less well appointed than a Galaxy class starship. I think it was to stratify the surroundings, and so like
can make sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, that's why I would have done it, because if I were the props master, I would absolutely be reusing the same chess set. I would build one, and it would be gorgeous, and like this is the one, and we're gonna move it around.
Right.
So the intentionally built less fancy chess set, I think, was really there to show like these guys don't have it as good. And they're over here. I mean, I got it. You guys have done the price, and so I can say this out loud without spoiling anything. They're over here stealing a page from Devanani Rawl's book anyway. They're like, hey, if we have a telepath, we're going to do better than if we don't have a telepath. Like,
right. Yeah.
This guy just got caught and it didn't end well for him, but he's still out there doing business. And so we go do business like him. Like, they're just trying to get a leg up in this world, like a stubby little Ferengi leg up in this world. And it's not going well for them.
No, it's not. So once Riker's punched the guy out, by the way, like, we never see that guy again once he's punched out. Did Riker kill him, or do Ferengi just take really long naps?
I wondered the same thing, but he didn't have like a weapon, right? So he would have had to punch him.
He punched him. He says, "Oh, that Ferengi's got an iron jaw." Like,
and then they just like leave him on the floor or something while Riker tries to send a message to the Enterprise.
Maybe their jaw is very sensitive.
okay. I was about to say. So we know that the ears are a sensitive, erogenous part of their body. Imagine being knocked in the cranium and also the testicles at the same time.
Oh, that's true. That's true. If he fell on his ear, that could put him out for quite a while.
So I think he's out because he got knocked pretty hard and also in a very sensitive spot. So even if he came to, he would be writhing on the deck for a little while. And the doctor is clearly busy torturing Lawaksana.
That just makes me think now that I'm thinking about it, is really unfortunate, but this is forward to Deep Space Nine, but I'm just thinking of a scene in which Quark and Rom's mom grabs them by the ears and they start writhing in pain. And, like, obviously, like, I mean, like, human parents will do that to kids, sometimes grab them by the ear, but she's grabbing her kids by the nuts.
Ouch.
So I want to talk about the B plot because it's actually really important right where we are. So
Okay.
the B plot is that apparently Wesley has finally finished his written exam and he's ready to do his oral part of his exam. And so there's also this thing where he's like, well, we got to get back to Beta Z. We got to get him on the ship. He's got to go do his oral exam and he can't. But then at the last minute, when Riker sends out this secret message, he figures out what it is and doesn't go.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. One of the reasons I love this episode, yes, it gives me all like the Imzadi feels, but it's a Wesley was right episode. And like,
Yeah,
I love
it is.
quality Wesley content. And also, spoiler alert for like 10 minutes later in the episode, Weslly gets his big boy pants in this
I
episode.
didn't know that was coming. I actually cried. I didn't know it was coming. Like I knew he wasn't going to go off to Starfleet in third season, but I was like, oh, he got his outfit and he got promoted. And I was waiting to come over here and record with you guys. Literally, like, walked over here as soon as I finished the episode, and I'm like, Wesley got his uniform.
Yes, Wesley got his big boy pants, and it's very, very exciting. I'm pretty sure I wailed when it happened in real life.
Yeah.
And Gene Roddenberry made sure that this was like a full actual thing, because not only was Wesley made a full ensign, but Gene was in the army during World War II. He was a pilot, and he gave his second lieutenant bars, which would be the army equivalent to an ensign. He gave them to Will Wheaton.
My heart.
As part of the ceremony of him being promoted to ensign. And not only did he made like a full ceremony of it, he invited Colin Powell, who was at that time the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, to the set for this ceremony.
Yeah.
So like
that's
it was
pretty cool.
a big proper thing.
Well, you know what I just realized? That's why he was wearing the wearing the outfit like 3 or 4 episodes ago when they've went in the other time travel bubble.
Yesterday's Enterprise?
Because they probably were like, well, we're going to be promoting him to ensign costuming. Can you get the costume ready? And I already had it. Because remember how we were like, oh, Wesley's in his ensign uniform.
Well,
that's
actually, it's a little different though, because they had different uniforms in that episode. They had
that's right. Their uniforms are slightly different.
They had like a turtleneck collar. It wasn't open in the front, so it would have had to have been a different piece.
Interesting. Okay.
But they were probably the same pants. A lot of the tunics, especially those one-off shirts, but also like what the background players were going to wear, that stuff came in small, medium, and large. So they would throw it on the actor. If it wasn't great, maybe they'd pin it. Maybe they'd like take a tuck at it because it was for an OCP. But like that stuff came in small, medium, and large. They made 3 sizes. You picked one.
Right.
Well, and also they were still using like they took off the piping from like the season 1 and 2 uniforms, and we're still throwing that on background extras for pretty much the rest of the series.
Yes.
Just when they needed more uniforms, they're like, all right, well, it looks close enough. You're going to be in the background. Nobody's going to notice.
Right. Yeah. I know. Well, I was very excited to see him turn into an ensign. I was like, "Yay!" And like you said, Manda, it is a Wesley is right episode, and that made me happy too.
Yeah, and that's the thing is Riker isn't able to get access to actually like the communications because that needs Tog's authorization code. And Lwaxana almost gets his authorization code before Neelix shows up. Is like, she's using her feminine wiles on you to gain access to the whole ship. I'm gonna put her in the brain destroying machine.
I know, right?
And
also, from that moment, Arcturian Fizz became like love potion number 9, Funky Cold Medina of the Star Trek fanfiction universe. I just need you to know that.
That's
anybody trying to get laid in fanfic was like, would anybody like an Arcturian Fizz? And we're like, well, we know what you want to do later.
That's right, because that was the pretext she used for getting the code. She's like, oh, I want to make an Arcturian Fizz. Oh, well, we don't have that on the ship's replicator. Oh, well, I can program it. I just need your access code to the entire ship. And he's, post-coital, he's like, oh, yeah, sure, here's the whole thing.
I know.
But Riker finds a system that doesn't require Tog's authorization code, which for some reason has to do with the warp core, which I was just like, no, anything to do with the warp core should require Tog's authorization. That is highly sensitive anyway.
But it's less the warp core itself and more like the muffler. It's like, it's not the actual exhaust system, it's like the muffler. And so, like in your car, the muffler is just kind of exposed. And if someone wants to fool with your muffler, they can just like walk up to your car and like put a nail in your muffler because it's just right there, visible.
Or a banana.
Or a banana in your or a potato in your tailpipe.
Or the tap out some wood chimes on it.
Right. So it feels like he found a way to play the muffler like a drum.
Yep.
And it was such a thing that like you wouldn't bother. Like the person that installed it was like, oh, put a password on this. Are you kidding me? It's the muffler. It doesn't need a password. It's the muffler.
Fair enough. I'll accept your headcanon there. So once they do that, the Enterprise is able to track him down. Of course, now the Enterprise actually, like, they had been away looking at a stellar nursery that was, like, disrupting their communications for, like, a couple days beforehand. That explains, why Riker and Troi were being held captive so long. It's just handy little, let's send them away to somewhere where nobody can talk to them. That way we can let the episode happen.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they would have been looking on them in like 5 seconds. And once the Enterprise shows up, Lwaxana actually like bargains with Tog. She's like, I will work for you so long as you let my daughter go, and Riker. And so they beam over, but then she starts playing to Jean-Luc on the view screen, and Deanna's like, she wants you to play along. You needs to act like you need her. And
yeah.
Good old Jean-Luc. He starts reciting every Shakespearean sonnet he has memorized.
You can think of. I know.
Memorized.
So good. And there's a point where when he is doing the Shakespeare and the countdown, when like Captain Picard turns his back to the view screen and like does a number and then like starts the next piece of poetry, where you can see Sir Patrick Stewart can barely keep it together. There is this grid.
It was so good.
So good.
It was so good. Like, I was laughing so much. I said that screen. I took a picture of him pointing at the screen and like yelling and sent it to you. I said to all of you guys actually, and I was like, I'm dying.
Yes.
This is so good.
And you've got to think that writer's room from day one. Like, we have an award-winning Shakespearean actor playing the captain. And every time they snuck a tiny Shakespeare reference in anywhere, they're like, we're doing this because someday we'll get a moment to let it pay off. Someday we're going to be able to. And then they're like, wait, here it is. Here is our payoff. Here is where we get to take advantage of the fact that we have one of the world's leading Shakespearean actors doing spaceship acting 8 shows a week. Let's come on. Dig deep into your high school English classes and let's find the best of Shakespeare and put it in his hand, because it will be gold.
My love is a fever.
Yeah. Oh, it's like probably 3 of my favorite minutes of television ever made. Like,
it was so good. And I don't know if this was Marina Sirtis's acting, but she also thought it was amazing. I think she was just laughing like with the rest of us because she was trying so hard to like there's one point where she just gets this smile on her face. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm with you.
Well, and Riker's got an impish grin the entire time. I mean, you know, Jonathan Frakes, he's really good at the impish grin, but obviously in character, Riker's eating it up too.
It's
and
delicious.
This is the scene where that meme image of Picard with his hand out, going, why the whatever, that's where that came from, is this episode.
So I meant to ask. Yeah.
Anyway, he convinces Tog that he's going to blow that he'll let Lwaxana Troi die by blowing her up if he can't have her. And so Tog's like, oh no, beam her over right now. And honestly, like when he did, I was like half expecting her to beam onto the bridge naked.
Oh my gosh, that would have been so much more funny.
That would have been hilarious.
Yeah.
But
that's funny.
She is very happy to continue playing up the, oh, Picard, you want me, because, you know, she's a telepath. She's a very good telepath. And she has been insistent the entire time she's been on the show that Jean-Luc has a thing for her. So there's got to be a morsel of truth there, even though he is not comfortable with it. It's something he's keeping repressed deep down.
Yeah, because he's like warp 9.
Right? How fast can we get her home right now? And I mean, we don't warp 9 very often. Like that's.
No, I can't. I think we've only done it like 2 or 3 other times in the series that I've seen.
You do it when you're running away from Q or the Borg, basically.
Yeah, or Lwaxana Troi, apparently. Like, but it's just golden, and you think again, like you think that's the climax of the episode. You think that's the end of the episode. Whatever denouement we're gonna get is not gonna matter, and then it's Wesley's promotion, and you're like,
and then it's Wesley's promotion.
How could this episode have gotten better that way? That is how this episode could have gotten better, and this episode has everything I love in it.
It was so good. No, I wasn't expecting it because, you know, I thought, after he got done with the Shakespeare thing, it was going to fade to a planet and it would go to black, right? Like they usually do.
A little captain's log, little closing credits.
Yeah, exactly. And then all of a sudden we're looking at Picard in his ready room, or that's where he was, right? The ready room. Yeah. And then Wesley comes in and, you know, at first you think he's kind of reprimanding him for not having gotten his oral exam done. And then he's like, well, no, the Academy will wait. It's our benefit. And then I'm like, okay, so they're just having a moment. And then all of a sudden he's like, but
I cannot in good conscience
I'm going to promote you.
Allow you to wait for the Academy. Yes, Jean-Luc. Give it to me.
Yes, Jean-Luc.
Talk it to me, Jean-Luc. I love it.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great ending to the episode.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's actually kind of weird because like Wesley is going to be leaving the show in about 10 episodes from now too. For some reason in my head I had thought he was a full ensign for longer on the show, but no, he's going to be gone soon.
Yeah, and that wasn't story reasons.
Oh yeah, no. That was will reasons.
That was not story reasons. I mean, the way they wove the story, and the writer's room was really good. And you could pretty much throw any problem at them and they would find a way to work around it. Gates McFadden went through an entire pregnancy and kept shooting, and like you never saw her baby bump.
Well, she's got that blue coat,
and it got bigger and bigger and bigger every episode.
Yeah.
And then also they're like, how do we shoot this in a way that doesn't draw attention to it? And it totally worked. So yeah, when Will Wheaton,
which season is she pregnant? Because I want to try to look for it.
What season? I think it's season 4, 5.
Okay. Well, because I have a joke, because not really a joke. I mean, it's a joke in the show, but I love in Brooklyn Nine-Nine how like for all of the time that Amy is pregnant, it's like they're just trying to find funnier and funnier ways to like have her play being pregnant or not being pregnant. And then all of a sudden in one episode, they're like, all right, you're going to play a civilian that's pregnant. They just bring her out in her full baby belly and it's supposed to be a fake baby belly. I think that, yeah. So, I mean, I like when they do that stuff in shows.
That reminds me of on How I Met Your Mother. There was a season Allison Hannigan was pregnant. And
joke.
For most of the season, she's just like sitting at the bar. So the table's covering her belly, or she'll just be, you know, she'll have something in her lap or something like that. But then there is like just a cutaway gag to her at a hot dog eating contest where she just has the belly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so it's next season. It's season 4, episode 23 is the host. And that is the one in which she is the most pregnant and the most prominent story-wise.
Exciting. I'm excited to see.
Wait, that's the host. That's interesting because that's the one where she has a lot of sex. So
yes, hearing Gates McFadden talk about it when she's like, I had this big love episode and I was 7 months pregnant, and it was so yeah, that, which is how I remember. I'm looking up the episode that I remember her talking about to figure out when it was. But yes, this writer's room is great. And when Wil Wheaton needed to tell the production to f off, they found a way to make it work story-wise. And then later on, they were able to talk him into coming back for a couple of appearances. And oh my God, the first duty, so good.
Oh, I keep saying that Wesley's best episodes are after he left the show.
Yeah, you've said that a few times.
So we quote the first duty in our house pretty regularly.
It's a good quotable episode. I'm looking forward to when we get to that one.
It's so
Me
good.
too.
It's so good. And again, the fanfic, y'all. The fanfic.
Yeah. Oh, I remember something I meant to bring up. Because you know how Luxana's like, oh, I want children. She's doing that typical give me a grandchild thing, you know? Apparently Deanna did not tell her about Steven Universe then?
I don't think so.
Because she did have a child. She had that experience.
Right, she did.
Yeah, I don't know if that, it certainly never happened on screen, and I don't remember it happening in a book.
Okay. Maybe Deanna decided that wasn't something her mom needed to be a part of, and it was too personal to her, because I could see that, you know?
Well, and of course, Deanna doesn't know this at this point, but that could probably bring up some painful memories for Luxana, because she's lost a child that we'll find out about that later.
I had that spoiled looking at Memory Alpha earlier. Yeah.
Well, that's actually good, because that means we didn't just spoil it for you. Someone else did that. It's not our fault.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if her and Gene Roddenberry divorced or if he died, and he died. Yeah.
Deanna she doesn't really bring up the fact that she had a kid basically ever, except like briefly in The Offspring when Picard is upset that Data is calling Lal his child.
Right.
And she's just like, well, you've never been a parent. And that's like basically the most acknowledgement that we get that, well, she was a parent for like 12 hours.
12 hours. That's all you need.
Well, you know. I came to this episode, it had already aired, so it was like a year after it aired originally. And my friend Matt was like, you would really like Star Trek The Next Generation, even though you don't like the original series that much. And I'm like, okay, I'll watch one episode because you told me to. And the episode I saw was Sins of the Father. And I was like, this is not for me. And he went, yeah, we picked the wrong day. Let me look at the TV guide, because that was the thing back then. It came on, Star Trek came on 5 nights a week in my hometown back then. There were syndicated episodes Monday through Friday, and then a new episode came on like Sunday nights. And he's like, let me check the TV guide and let me pick a day. Let me hand pick an episode for you to watch that I think you'll like. And I'm like, okay. This was the episode.
He knew you pretty well then.
Yes. Yeah, we are still friends. We still talk. Yeah, we were writing partners all through middle school. Like, he knows me very well. And he picked this episode and he's like, look, it's got the romance angle, and I know you like Wil Wheaton, and this is going to be an episode for you. And yeah, well, sure enough, I think I wrote my first fanfic like 4 days later. And I've never looked back.
Have I ever mentioned what my first fanfic was on the podcast yet? I don't know if I have.
I don't think you've mentioned anything
so
about
fanfics.
I
don't write a ton of fanfic. I don't. But I was young and Jurassic Park came out, and I basically wrote Jurassic Park 2. Nice. Yeah. But in it, Ellie and the doctor had gotten back together or whatever, and she was pregnant. I don't know. I was 14. We're not going to judge my 14-year-old fanfic.
I was 12 and
everyone's pregnant in fanfics.
I was 12 and it's fine. It's fine. I still have one of my first fanfics, like my first long form fanfic. It's in my garage. It was in a blue vinyl 3-ring binder full of loose leaf paper that I would handwrite and then pass around school to everybody that wanted to read it. And then after everybody was caught up, they'd give it back to me to write another chapter. And like, we did this for the entirety of 9th and 10th grade. And you know what? It's really bad. But they say the first million words are just for practice. And so I'm just glad I started early.
Yeah, I know. Thank goodness, right? Because I did a count at one point. I counted up all the nanos. I counted up all the various things I've written. I went back and I was like, I estimated what some of the words and the writing I've done in like school papers was and such. And I figured out like 5 years ago, I hit my 1,000,000 words, but it took me forever to get there, you know?
Wow.
And yeah, because I think that's Bradbury that said that your first 1,000,000 words are crap or something like that.
They're just especially they're just for practice. Yeah. And like Claudia Gray was like, I'm very fortunate that most of mine were about Mulder and Scully kissing. And I'm like, I read that. I was on MSR when you were writing on MSR. Oh my God, I've been your fan since 1995.
That's so cute. And then, I mean, I've run D&D games that were basically fan fiction because I'd set them in different fantasy worlds that I'd read about and stuff. But other than that, I haven't written a bunch of fan fiction. But I think it's so interesting when fans engage with the creative license that way. You know, I used to be kind of judgy about it. Does everybody remember that? But I got over it.
I seem to remember you might have said something about you might have been a little judgy about people using Nano to write fan fiction.
I was about to say, you were when it came to NaNoWriMo. Yeah. Like, this is not the time for that. And the thing is, I even was like that. I was writing 200,000 words of fanfic a year, but I was like, not for Nano. Nano is for original fiction. And I also wrote some very bad original fiction during NaNoWriMo.
Some of my worst writing happened during Nano, but some of my best writing happened during Nano. So
I'm going to say Nano is for writing, and whatever you want to write is good.
Yeah,
I'm Nano Anarchy. Go for
it. I'm way over myself at this point. Number one, I was so much more serious before I was a professional, if that makes any sense.
Right. Yeah, I do. I do know what you mean. Because once I owned a publishing company, like the whole, like the mask was taken off and I was like, oh, this is just a horrific industry. I can be more fun with this than I need to be.
Please do what makes you happy. Yeah. Please do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the most successful like book franchises of the 21st century
is just fan fiction of Twilight. I know. Her fan fiction name is Blue Eyes White Dragon. Like, come on. I hate Twilight so much.
I do too. It's like, I actually prefer 50 Shades because at least there's some consent on the page.
Right, I know, a little bit.
It's not good. In fact, it's very bad. And everyone I know who's like involved in fetish communities, they're like, don't read that. It's terrible. But at least at some point, someone verbally consents to something.
But it took the pressure off Twilight.
It really did.
Exactly.
And Twilight was terrible. Twilight was bad, non-con, dub-con with teenagers. That's the other thing. At least in 50 Shades, they're adults.
At least Twilight gave us Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart. So, like, you know,
that's
thank
true.
you.
Nobody hates Twilight as much as the cast of Twilight.
That's true. And while everybody would like to complain about Kristen Stewart, she is one of my biggest crushes, and I can't get over it.
She's a national treasure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure nobody hates her anymore.
I don't think she's a fantastic actress, but God, I would jump in front of a bear for her.
Right. Yes.
I mean, I would also still to this day not only jump in front of a bear for Will Wheaton, but also the woman he married, which if you had told 12-year-old me that someday I would be like friendly and on speaking terms with the hot, tall, blonde woman Will Wheaton marries eventually, I would not have believed you. But
you probably wouldn't believe the internet existed and how it worked either.
That's true. But most definitely, I adore Anne, and she is fabulous. And I hope she likes this episode because Wesley getting his big boy pants is momentous.
It's a big episode, yeah. All right, thanks for joining us today. I'm Ari.
And I'm GayFesh.
And I'm Manda.
And until next time,
live long and prosper.
Thanks for watching.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notified when new episodes come out.
We're on Twitter at Rest Both Worlds.
Join our Patreon at patreon.com/restofbothworlds for bonus content and hear your name at the end of each episode.